Hi, my name is Carl, and this is Sam. Say hi, Sam.
Sup? Sup? I said sup.
And this is the Pooch Kick podcast. On this podcast, we're going to be breaking down, for at least for the first couple of weeks, we're going to be breaking down each division in the NFL. This week, we're starting off with the AFC West. The AFC West has probably one good contender, in my opinion. What do you think, Sam?
Two. They have two and a dark horse.
Who are your two in the dark?
I only have one dark horse. That's Denver, because I'm not totally sure how Drew Lock turns out. But I think that the Chargers are definitely, given the dysfunction last year, are a good team this year to look at. Although I don't know, I thought they do it last year, so maybe that's just Chargers luck. And of course, we all know the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes are locked in playoff team.
Yeah, should we talk about that new deal really fast?
So I mean, yeah, the little bit we know, a lot of the details are coming out. So obviously on the next episode we can probably cover more. But I think it's the longest contract in Allen. Let me check that. I'm unaware of any contract that's ever been this long, other than coaching staff. But I mean, 10 years, $400 million is a very, very long time.
It is. That is, if anything, it is a vow of commitment and faith in his abilities for almost his entire career.
Bringing out big words here. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think you can get much better from now, and I think we saw his almost like his floor this year. And
So you think that was his floor this year? You think that was the lowest he can go?
I mean, short of like seriously get injured, yeah, I think that 30 touchdowns and however many yards he threw for, I don't have that in front of me, but is probably where you can lock him. I mean, kind of like Peyton Manning, maybe like 28 touchdowns, but kind of like Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, just between high 20s and 50 every year for touchdowns and probably a good 4,000 yards, lock in playoffs. I mean, this Chiefs team reminds me a bit of the Colts teams with Peyton there at the mid to late 2000s, kind of a more questionable defense, but rock solid offense. And
Rock solid offense with a great running back, with a great receiving core. When they had Reggie Wayne and was Marvin Harrison still around back then?
yeah, he should have been.
I don't know. I wouldn't say it was his floor. I mean, he still threw for 4,000 yards. He threw for 5,000 last year. His completions percentage was about the same. Actually, almost it's the exact same. 2018 it was 66.0, and last year it was 65.9%. And he took fewer sacks last year. I think that also equates to the games that he missed. But his average has always stayed pretty simple. His touchdowns, however, were cut in half last year. However, so were his interceptions. His interceptions were cut down from 12 to 5 last year. So maybe as he gets a little farther into the league or into his career, he learns a little bit more ball management skills. Maybe we won't see those left-handed passes as much anymore, even though that'd be great. That's what makes them so fun to watch.
Yeah, and I mean, we're going to get into it with them too in a little bit, but I mean, they also didn't have a running back this year, so I think that definitely they had Damian Williams, who did fine in the playoffs, but he's not
they had that trio.
He's not a Damian Williams caliber talent. Yeah, Spencer Ware, who's finally gone. We'll get into that. Yeah. But my man's been there forever. But I mean, I don't know. I think that this is probably what his floor looks like, is around what he did this year, which gets you a 10-year contract worth $400 million.
That's ridiculous. That's such faith. All right, so do you want to get into talking? I think we'll go with records first.
All right, yeah. Wherever you want to start, we can start.
So I think what we're going to do is just going to go game by game, and we're going to break it down, what we view it as a win or a loss. So we're going to start with the
hot money.
We're going to start off with the Chiefs here. So week 1, they're at home against Houston. What do you think?
That's going to be a capital W. The Chiefs have gotten better, although I think they stayed a lot the same, but they added Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who looks to be, I mean, Not to be rude to Damian Williams, but I really don't think you can really. You could go down. You could have Doug Martin, but this looks like a giant improvement. And Houston has only gotten worse the offseason. I mean, however you want to spill it, they don't have a great running back. In my opinion, their O-line is still bad, although they added Tunsil. But this isn't the Houston show. Kansas City's walking out with a giant W.
Yeah, I agree. I tend to think that that Houston is going to be coming into this game wildly ill-prepared to deal with the gun show that they're going to have to go off. Kansas City's going to be a scoring machine in this one because Houston's secondary is absolutely thrashed. Multiple times this last season, they just looked terrible. And I mean, even in the playoff game where they were up and let Kansas City score, was it 21 and a quarter?
Yeah.
It was hard to watch the drastic turn it took. So I think them scheduling this game week 1 signifies that they want to see if maybe that was a fluke last year or what. But I think you're right. I think Kansas City comes out on top on this one, pretty big.
Yeah, it'll definitely be an interesting one. I mean, Deshaun is one of the best talents, so it'll be a good game for that regard. But I just don't see a way that Houston wins that.
Agreed. All right, going into week 2, it's Kansas City at the Chargers. What do you got?
I actually have Kansas City for an L here.
Wow.
I love the Chargers defense. I think that adding Chris Harris was a really good move by them. They had, I mean, is pretty much as injured as you could get last year. I mean, they lost a lot, so a lot of people are coming back. I think Anthony Lynn's a great coach. I think this offense has gone a very different direction than the rest of the league, kind of trying to chase Kansas City. I think they're going to go much more tempo. And I think that the best way to beat Kansas City is just to keep your offense on the field, kind of rhythm, make them try and score in windows, which obviously we know they can do. So there's a good chance that Kansas City can still win this. But I think that defense comes back mightily improved, and I think that Kelsey's going to have a lot more trouble out of the shorter parts of the field, and their slot receiving isn't going to be as well. So yeah, I think that LA walks with the W. And also, I don't think there's going to be fans. So this is a distinct advantage to the Chargers, who don't play with fans already.
Oh, a little jab at the Chargers fans. All right.
I love you guys. I love your team, but like
I actually have this as a Kansas City win big time. I don't think Tyrod Taylor is going to be very effective against a Kansas City defense that everybody says is, mediocre at best, but I actually believe they're pretty good. I just think that their offense outshines them most of the time.
I mean, I don't think that's fair. I think that the Chiefs' defense isn't as bad as some people think, and I mean, I definitely have a tendency to maybe not look at it as well, but I just think that what it did at the end of the season is its pinnacle form, and I think it took a while to get going, and I don't see a reason that it wouldn't do that, and there's a good chance that Chris Jones isn't playing for them on that D-line without his contract that he wants for $20 a year, and without that, that's a huge problem for them. They still have D Ford on the pass rush, but Chris Jones is an immense talent.
Yeah, I just don't see there being enough offensive weapons for the Chargers to be able to compete with the Chiefs. I just don't. I think Tyrod is gonna, give him some good looks like he did in Cleveland. Some good veteran moves I think he'll make, but I just think that he has Keenan Allen and he has Austin Eckler. But besides that, Mike Williams has been on the downward spiral. All last season. I don't know if he comes back from that and really improves. I just don't see the offensive weapons being there to beat KC.
Yeah, so it's a ugly win. I think I don't think that the Chargers really walk out of the season with any pretty wins, but it'll definitely be an interesting game. Kansas City's gonna, I feel like, either just hand people an L on the plate, or it's gonna be a slugfest.
Well, that's a good segue into our next week, which is week 3, Kansas City at Baltimore. I think this one is going to be an absolute slobber knocker, third game of the season. Or it'll either be a very one-sided game with one team being very ill-prepared with not as much time to prepare with this shortened off season.
This will be the probably biggest game of the first 4 weeks because I think that this is a preview to what you could easily have be an AFC Championship game. Baltimore has had one of the best off seasons in my memory. Kansas City is electric. Baltimore is electric. If Lamar is what we think he is, then this game is going to be a titanic game, and I cannot help but look forward to it, although I do have Baltimore coming out with their W. So I have the Chiefs by week 3 already 1-2. So
I have them 2-1. I think this is Kansas City's first loss. I think Baltimore's just going to come out swinging. That defense that the additions made to their defense, Calais Campbell, what a freaking slobber knocker that man is in the middle. He can single-handedly take over a game and make it all about the passing. I think Calais Campbell can make Clyde Edwards-Helaire really tough. It can be a tough matchup for him. I think that it's going to have to be a lot of short passes in that game in order to succeed because Baltimore's secondary is also stacked. Still, they have Marcus Peters from formerly Los Angeles, and then they have Earl Thomas still, even though he's dealing with some drama. I still think that Baltimore secondary is going to be very tough for KC to penetrate, and if they are going to, they need a run game, and then Calais Campbell just shuts that down.
Yeah, I'm with you that I just think Baltimore is a little too much for this team to handle, at least this early in the year. KC seems like one of those teams that I think that Andy Reid funness where the first half of the season is always fun, but that second half of the season is where they pick up, I think, steam much more and they get a lot stronger. And this just feels like kind of one of those classic games it's a prelude to what comes later in the postseason.
I agree. What do you think about week 4, Kansas City with New England visiting?
So you could have Tom Brady, and it wouldn't change the answer. It's a W for Kansas City.
I agree.
Team started figuring out a little bit how to handle the New England secondary towards the end of the year. You saw bigger plays happening. It's still a great defense with one of the best coaches. I think that no matter how you slice it, even if you have Cam Newton, he's going to be still figuring out this, scheme. And this will probably be the week that he starts to figure it out. Or you have Stidham, who, is still dealing with the NFL. You have an offense that's a little more questionable in New England. Kansas City just has, I think, a lot more together. And I think that they walk out with a W here.
I agree. I think Kansas City has too many weapons for New England to handle. Really, all New England has right now is their defense and Cam Newton. I think Edelman is on the decline. I think that Cam is one of the more perfect choices for Edelman because Cam doesn't really throw a lot of big deep balls. He likes to throw them over the middle and in the slot. It just makes sense for that one receiver. And I know that Mohamed Sanu is there and he made a little bit of a statement last year in a couple of games. I think that New England just doesn't have enough answers to Kansas City's problems. I think Kansas City presents so much to a team that you need a well-rounded team to beat them, and I just don't think New England's well-rounded this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just all depends on what's at the QB. If you have Stidham, I think it looks a lot like the offense did last year. If you have Cam, then the big question is which Cam Newton are you getting? Are you getting the Cam that's healthy and rocking and rolling, which case you have one of the better quarterbacks we've seen in the past 10 years, maybe one of the best? Or do you have this Cam Newton that we've become familiar with almost that is injury plagued and, isn't able to make some of these big time plays? Excuse me. I mean, it'll be interesting. If it works, it's just another, it's another big grand slam for the Patriots. But either which way, I still think Kansas City's walking out of here with a W. Yeah,
I agree. Moving on to week 5, Kansas City with the Raiders coming to visit.
As much as I like the Raiders, they're not beating Kansas City at home.
No, I don't think so. I think they walk into Arrowhead and get absolutely stomped. I don't think they even have a chance, to be honest. Unless Kansas City has some injuries early on, I don't think it's I don't think it's a fair
I
game.
don't think it's that far separated. I think that the Raiders as a team have kind of been ignored a little bit like a redheaded stepchild. I mean, they've made some odd decisions at drafts that we've all kind of cured at. I definitely am not a huge fan of the Henry Ruggs pick at where they took him. But I think that this team has made some good acquisitions and additions, and I think that although I don't think that they're an elite team, I think that they're a team that can give a lot of teams trouble. And Casey's not an exception to that, although I do think that Casey kind of has the number here. I mean, I remember this season, a Raiders team I would say is worse than the one coming in this year, gave them some trouble at points. But at the end of the day, they're not good enough to beat the Chiefs in my mind.
Yeah, not at all. Moving on to week 6, Kansas City at Buffalo. I view this as an opportunity for Buffalo to really show who they are. It's at home, so they have that advantage if there's fans. Buffalo fan base is one of the most loyal and one of the craziest bunches out there. But they had an defense last year that just was stumping everybody dead in their tracks, and they would have to come back in the second half and try to figure out a way to beat them. So I do have Kansas City beating Buffalo. I do think it's going to be a close game. I just think that Buffalo's offense is additions like Stephon Diggs. I just don't think that their offense is going to be as high powered. I do think that Josh Allen is just a little bit too much of a wild child at the moment. I think this season will either propel him into a category where everybody thinks he's a definite up and comer, and with the right offense and the right weapons that he can do well. But I also think that's a double-edged sword where he could end up like a Mitchell Trubisky. I truly
I
think
wouldn't
so.
go that far.
I think so. I think Josh Allen could end up like a Mitchell Trubisky because he throws those picks.
You're looking at a Cam Newton style quarterback. He's not as good, but I mean, you nailed it right on the head. The problem with the Buffalo Bills is whether or not Josh Allen can hit Stephon Diggs in accurate stride. Because if so, then Kansas City has a serious problem here, and that this game becomes a lot closer. I just think, given what we know about Josh Allen right now, this is going to be a good matchup. It's a tough game for Kansas City. But Josh Allen, like if that accuracy improves over this offseason, which given this offseason, I don't know how, and if it doesn't improve over this season, then you have questions about that quarterback. But, if that is, then this game is potentially an L for Kansas City. But at the moment, I think they definitely, walk out with a W.
Yeah. I agree. I think it'll be a very close one, and depending on if there's fans in Buffalo, I think that'll be a difference as well. Moving on to week 7, though, we have the Kansas City at the Broncos. What do you think about that?
Kansas City is walking into Mile High, which I would say is probably the hardest stadium to play in, not because it's cold, not because it's loud, because it's high as hell, and the people there are high as hell. And it will just wear you down. I remember when the Chiefs were rocking the Alex Smith, Jamal Charles offense with that just incredible defense, seeing like Dontari Poe and Houston just on the sides by the third quarter with oxygen tanks just huffing and puffing. This is not an easy place to play. And week 7, you're talking about late October. It's going to be a little bit chilly. I know that's probably not a big problem to the Chiefs because they play down in Missouri during the winter, but I think that if Buffalo is what we think it is, even if they're not what we think it is, and they're, a 6-7 win team, I still think that they pose a big enough problem at home.
You mean Denver?
Yeah. Sorry, what'd I say?
You said the Buffalo.
Yeah, Buffalo. The Broncos. Then they can definitely give this Chiefs team an L. I will say though, for all this, as much as I love the Chiefs, I think that the Chiefs are, I want to say, one of the weaker elite teams. Obviously their offense isn't, but I just feel like their defense is a huge question mark to me, kind of which one shows up. I feel like Jacqueline Hyde, like we saw them in the, in the Chiefs game, or the Houston game, that first half just couldn't stop Jack. And then suddenly they got together. So, I mean, that's something that worries me looking at some of these games. I just feel like a place like Denver is a hard place to play from behind in.
Absolutely.
And I mean, it's not easy for the Denver players either, but they're, I'd say, a little more accommodating when you practice up there and play up there. Although I'm curious to see what Drew Lock and Vic Fangio look like in year 2.
I do too. I actually have Kansas City losing this game as well. I think walking into Mile High, you just have this, I would say, sense that it's going to be a different type of game. I mean, some magic happens at that stadium. Remember Tim Tebow throwing that slant to Demaryius Thomas to upset the Pittsburgh Steelers. That is one of my favorite memories of all time, and that happened right there. But I also think that the Broncos can have big games this year. I think their defense is still pretty middle of the road, even though they have Von Miller. I think Von Miller is kind of maybe past his prime. I think that the Broncos' offensive weapons that they added this year are amazing. I think Jerry Jeudy as a pickup was phenomenal. I thought getting a long down the field wide receiver is what they needed. And now if Drew Lock can get it to him, that's another question. But then they get Melvin Gordon to add on top of Phillip Lindsay. I think that's one of the probably the best running tandem in the league at the moment. I don't see anyone else being as good. I mean, I've drafted Phillip Lindsay the last 2 years in fantasy, and he's done well every season or each season. So I think the Broncos are going to pull one out there. I think it'll be a close game. With the new offense, I really feel like they could put up points on the board. And Kansas City's defense was ranked run defense was ranked 17th last year. They allowed the 7th most rushing yards in per game last season at 128 yards per game, and they were tied for second to last with 4.9 yards per rush. So they do have a weakness on their defense, and that is the run game. So if Denver can exploit that, even with Drew Lock maybe hitting him with some shallow passes over in the flat, I think they can pull that off.
Yeah, it's just what does Denver look like? But I'm definitely with you that this is a fun game. I think this is one of the highlight games for the season. This is definitely good towards the middle.
I think the next. Go ahead.
I'll say, looking at the next 2 weeks, I can tell you right now, neither one of these teams are getting a win.
I was just about to say that myself. I think Week 8 and Week 9 with the Jets and then the Panthers both coming to Arrowhead, I don't see Kansas City flopping in either of one of those games, barring a huge injury. I don't see it at all. I think the Jets are a floundering team that have a mediocre quarterback that everybody thinks is great. I think
when you have the worst coach in the NFL, it's hard to gauge talent.
Well, it's true, but I also think that Adam Gase isn't as bad as everybody says. I think
he's worse.
I think he has an ownership that is absolutely a garbage fire. Only second to the Bengals, and then coming in close third is definitely the Washington team that we cannot say their name anymore. But I'll
say Redskins. I'll say it.
They're gonna be the Red Tails now, don't you know?
Amen. No, I'm with you on that. That neither, the Panthers are interesting, but still, I don't see any way that they really win this. Although, if I had to tell you which team here in this whole thing that we walk into thinking the Chiefs will win this, that could flip them on their head, I'd say the Panthers are the one team that could do that.
Really?
If Teddy Bridgewater, if everything clicks. Now, I'm telling you right now, I can't say guarantee, but the closest I can get to a guarantee, I'll tell you Kansas City's going to win this. But if I had to pick one game here random that the Chiefs just like Andy Reid just can't read a clock and just things go wrong, it's this Panthers game. Just C-Mac runs all over DJ. That's what I'd say about this. But you don't got to read too deep into this one. Yeah. Like this is two W's. And then they get their cushy bye week. That's awesome. You ride the Jets Panthers to your bye week. Like that's a great. Who doesn't love doing that?
Weeks. And I think even if they have a little floundering against the Panthers, I think getting a bye week right after is a godsend. And then they go immediately after the bye week in week 10 to week 11. They go to Las Vegas to play those Raiders. What do you think about that?
Real quick before we get there, I just wanted to let the people know here real quick. So far, by bye week, so week 9, I have the Chiefs at 6-3. And my friend Collier has them at 7-2, just to give you guys a little mid-season thus far.
That's
They're
good.
coming in. They're getting a W. Look, the same
Even
thing that
with
applied the
even with
first
the
time.
heat, even with the heat.
Hey man, Missouri's hot as hell at the beginning of the year. Look, like I said, I like the Raiders a lot. I think in like 2-3 seasons, the Raiders will be a team that we talk about being really good. I think that they have a lot of the foundation pieces. Their defense still has
I
some
don't know.
question marks. I'm gonna trust the process.
I think you're trusting a little bit too much in John Gruden and that
I
and
think
that
that we
Oakland
said
Raider.
last year they had a terrible draft. It wasn't terrible. They ended up actually a lot of those players hit. It was a quiet hit. I think that we're gonna have similar ones this year. Like when we get into the Raiders, I'll get into my deal about Ruggs, but they like their guys. They know what they're doing. Mike Mayock and John Gruden seem to have a plan, and they don't give a shit about what the rest of the NFL thinks. And you know who else does that? Bill Belichick and Sean Payton and Andy Reid, and it's worked for all of
I
them.
don't
They're,
even think there's a comparison. I don't. I
I'm
truly
not
don't. I
saying as
think
like a head coach, yes, but like in terms of like they know what they want and they're doing it and it works for them. A lot of coaches get caught trying to chase, Bill Belichick. A lot of teams and coaches get caught trying to chase Pete Carroll. They want to emulate these teams, and so they lose sight of what makes their team good. Every team is different. Every team has their own players. Derek Carr does something better than other people do. Patrick Mahomes does something, but everyone does something good. Some people do bad things. Mitchell Trubisky doesn't really do a lot good. He's a good scrambler. I'll give him that. He's great at turning the TVs off, but these people are in the NFL, and I think the Raiders have a plan. But that's the Raiders. We're getting too much in these Raiders. It's an L for them coming out the bye week.
all right. Next, we move on to week 12, which is one of my highlighted games.
Oh God!
Kansas City at Tampa Bay.
Not a single highlight-worthy game for Tampa Bay.
Wow, really? You think it's gonna be a blowout, huh?
Yeah, who's gonna stop Tyreek Hill? Have fun when he throws it 8 yards to Tyreek Hill past your defensive line and linebacker blitz, and Tyreek fucking runs off for fucking 80 yards. Like, look, you added Tom Brady. Congratulations. Half of what made you good last year was the fact that you were in games the whole time. There's still not a secondary here. No, Kansas City's walking out here with a giant W. It's not even a fun game.
I will disagree with you that it won't be a fun game.
That might be an exaggeration. That might be too far on my part.
I think Kansas City is gonna get the W here. However, I think that with Tom Brady and Gronk and Mike Evans, and I think that their offense can really put on some chunk points against Kansas City, maybe late, because Kansas City. Or maybe I should say that they could put some chunk points on them early, because Kansas City's defense does take a while to warm up. It did it all throughout the playoffs last year. They would be a terrible first 2-quarter team, and then in the third and fourth quarter they were like, oh well, let's go have some fun. And I think that's what will happen here. I think Brady is. I think he's good still. I think. I'll put this on record that I think he's probably the greatest of all time just based on championships.
What a hot take.
Hot take there. I just think that it's too much. It's too much for Tampa Bay to take care of with all of those weapons. I think Tampa Bay has a good defense. They have great run defense, but their secondary
is 2003. That doesn't get you places. We saw them get torched. And this is an example of a team. Look, Tampa Bay, I'll give you a highlight of when we do Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay will beat up bad teams and get destroyed by good teams. That's my take on it this year. I'm going to save you time here. Kansas City's a great team. They're going to torch them. I don't know what more you can say about it. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe Tampa goes 16-0 and Bruce Arians becomes like the greatest coach ever, and we just forget about Bill and Tom Brady becomes a hero and he retires in Tampa and they build him a statue. I don't know.
I tell you what, that's exactly what Tom Brady wants. Because all this is just to show that he can do it without Belichick, and if he can pull off some sort of miracle like that, do you know how much we would be talking about that forever, and how much he would be cemented as the greatest of all time?
Well, all the new Tampa Bay fans that were previously Pats fans wouldn't let us forget. So
that's true, very true. All right, week 13. Broncos are coming to Arrowhead. What do you think?
Denver does not get it done this time. Turns out that home field advantage is good. Drew Lock is better than some people thought, not as good as others would thought. They put up a good fight, but Kansas City they can throw the ball a little bit better than everyone else, and that's what it gets down to, is that, when the clock's starting to tick down, who can make the play, and Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce or Mecole Hardman rip off a good 50-yard touchdown or something, and that's how it be.
Exactly. I think it's just gonna be too much for them the second time around, especially at Arrowhead, when they don't have that little bit of advantage. I wouldn't say it's a little bit that advantage of being in their stadium with their fans, if there's fans. I think KC just pulls this one out like very easily. I think they're definitely past. They're in their season stride at this point. They got them, and then the next week, I think it's an easy. I would say an easier win again in Week 14. They're going on at Miami. I think Miami can put up a little bit of a fight. I think their offense is getting better, but I think their defense is just
Congratulations, Miami. You threw a lot of money at a lot of players. I hope it works for you, because it hasn't really worked a lot for a lot of teams other than Philadelphia, who won that Super Bowl, and now look where they're at. They're gasping for air at a lot of positions, although
they have a great, solid foundation, though.
Yeah, his name is Carson Wentz, and if he's healthy, it's great.
And Doug Peterson.
Sure, whatever. Look, here's the point. I don't have a lot of faith in this team. I think that we've seen Fitzpatrick before. There's nothing new there. He does this, and the next year he stinks.
You think Fitty's still going to be the quarterback?
By this 14, time, it could be Tua, but Tua's one good hit away from not playing in the NFL. I mean, as much as we love the talent, and the guy seems like a great guy, whether or not, it won't matter if who's starting. This team's not going to, hold up against Kansas City. Although I think that Miami's made some improvements. I do think signing, Jordan Howard and stuff, that's all great and dandy. It's not going to get you a win against these good teams like Kansas City. I don't know. I'm a skeptic of the Dolphins. Every year somebody does this, and every year we have somebody that it blows up for. So, but this next week, this is a game I want to watch. Oh, yes. Man, down in the Bayou.
Down in the Bayou, we got the Kansas City Chiefs going to the Saints. Now, I will tell you out of the gate, I have the Saints beating Kansas City.
I do as well. When this game, both teams score over 40 points, don't be surprised.
I think, I think this is going to be an absolute slugfest, just haymakers all game. I don't think Kansas City has the pass rush to get past that Saints offensive line. And it's just going to be an aired out battle, and I think that the experience that Drew Brees, Michael Thomas, and Alvin Kamara will have will really set them forward in this game, and I think they'll edge Kansas City out. I don't think it'll be a blowout in any way, but I think Kansas City will have to fall to the Saints on this week. I think they're just riding too high of a 6-game winning streak, and maybe they go in a little bit too cocky to the Saints.
Yeah, I just don't really see them making out with a W here, although the Saints could do their very fun Notorious Saints thing and lose it in the last couple seconds. But yeah, I mean, it's a good game. It can go either way. I got the Saints on this one with you.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty easy the last two games of the season. Week 16 and 17, they have the Falcons and then the Chargers coming to Arrowhead.
Real easy.
I think nobody that the Falcons can put up some numbers. I just don't think they can put up the numbers to beat Kansas City. I think the Falcons' offense has been struggling these past two seasons to even get the ball moving down the field. They had that great win against San Francisco last year, but that was a fluke. They just don't have the defense mainly to put up with those deep threats. With three wide receivers that can burn you for 80 yards on any given play is too much for any normal to good secondary, and the Falcons have a terrible secondary.
Well, I don't agree with your assessment on the Falcons' offense. Their defense isn't going to hold these Chiefs anything, and it'll be a shootout, and you can bet that Tyrann Mathieu will grab a pick off of Matt Ryan at some point. And so I mean, it's not hard. And then week 17, get at it. The Chargers got it the first time. They're not getting it the second time. Chiefs are fighting for that number 1 seed. They want that bye week off. Chargers just, I don't think, pull this one out.
Yeah, so that ends it for me. I have them at 13-3 with only losing to the Saints, Denver, and Baltimore. But you have them losing to those same teams, I believe, right?
Yes, I do. Plus,
set for the Chargers week 2.
Yeah, I have 12-4. They don't get that number 1 seed, unfortunately. We'll get to who gets that later, but we'll move on to the Chargers now.
Yeah.
Okay, week 1 at Bengals. Ooh, God, Zach Taylor, Joe Burrow getting an L. Chargers are taking this one home. Defense is too good for that Cincinnati offense, and Cincinnati's defense ain't stopping nothing. Tyrod and Anthony Lynn come out, grab a W, go back home.
I totally agree. I think the Chargers have an easy dub their first game out. I think Joe Burrow with a shortened offseason is not even going to be close to being a starter this year. And I think the Chargers just steamroll them. I think their Bengals offense and defense just are in the gutter this year.
Yeah.
And then week 2, we already have the pick. It's Chargers versus Kansas City in LA, but Kansas City. I have Kansas City taking that one. Sam has a different opinion. He has the Chargers beating them in a good upset.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just a fun game. I illustrated, I think, why I think that in the Chiefs part. It'll be a good game, but the Chargers walk out with a W here.
Yeah. So what do you think about week 3? It's Chargers with the Panthers visiting.
So you mean the same teams playing each other?
Yes, and that's exactly what I mean. That was going to be my analysis of it.
The Panthers have a better running back, but the Chargers have a better defense. New coach in Carolina. Chargers are walking out with a W here. Although it is going to be, if you're watching this, unless you're a Chargers or Panthers fan, it's going to be a boring-ass game to watch.
I agree. I think the only thing that could make it exciting is the screen passes to the running backs, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
Screen passes to the running backs are going to be the highlight of this game. They are going to go CMC and Austin Eckler all game long because both of their offenses both of their defenses cannot put up with passing to the flat. It's just not happening. And then I think the Panthers will come out swinging with CMC, but I actually have the Chargers winning this one. I think it'll be close, but I think the Chargers can pull this one off with the experience of Tyrod, even though him and Bridgewater have about the same experience, maybe Bridgewater a little bit more with winning, but I think that the Chargers can pull this one off.
Yeah. So then we get to week 4, good old Tampa Bay, TB, Tom Brady, Tampa Bay.
All right, you said Tampa Bay was overrated, but you still think they're overrated enough for the Chargers?
Nah, the Chargers O-line isn't going to be able to hold up with this pass rush, and they're going to be all over Tyrod Taylor, Austin Eckler. I don't see a way that Tyrod's able to get this ball out quick enough. Really, this is just one of those games that's ugly. I don't, it'll be decided because somebody makes one play. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin probably breaks off for a big play, and that seals the deal. You got a 7 to 15 game, not 15, but 13-6, something like that. A lot of field goals. That's what I probably tell you in this game. Yeah, I
actually view it as kind of a blowout. I think Tampa Bay is going to blow out the Chargers. I just don't see the Chargers defense besides their front 4. Not good.
I would disagree wholeheartedly. That secondary is lethal. They have they have added Chris Harris plus what they already had their talent 2 years ago that was hurt last year. This is a lethal secondary. The linebacking core made some additions this offseason. This is a potent defense. Watch this be an actual contender for a number 1 defense. We are going to remember why 2 years ago they were so good.
All right. You're making that call.
I died on this
Chargers
last
winning, or
year?
you think Tampa Bay is going to win? You have Tampa Bay winning, right?
I have Tampa Bay winning this one just on the fact that pass rush is too good for this O-line, and there's not much that I don't trust Tyrod Taylor to save the game.
What do we have with week 5? Chargers at the Saints.
This one is going to upsetty spaghetti people. The Chargers get a W.
Wow.
The Saints have to throw the ball deep. Michael Thomas gets hit by Chris Harris Jr., an actual good corner in the slot. They can't just abuse people in the lane. They're going to get pass rush. Tyrod Taylor's not going to experience hell on earth like he does with Tampa. He's going to be able to move the ball a little bit more. It's not a cute game. It's an ugly one. But in like the upset, if you're in a survivor pool, this is where like half the people get out. Someone's going, oh, Saints going to roll. No. Chargers getting an upset win here.
Really? You think they're going to take that to the Superdome and get the Saints? I don't think so.
Ain't going to be no fans.
I don't think it's going to be close. I don't at all. I think the Saints are going to steamroll the Chargers. I don't think the Chargers really have anything to answer. They have great. Okay, I will give it to you. I'll take back my comment about the secondary being bad. I would say they're good. Like they're adequate. They can do the job, but
lethal.
I wouldn't say they're lethal. I would say that they're okay.
Lethal.
Last year, their total ranked defense was 14th overall, so they're not.
They were all hurt. They missed like half the season. Half their starters weren't playing all these games, and they still kept them close. Phillip Rivers just couldn't help but throw some interceptions. This year they don't got to. I mean, they got Tyrod, so argue whichever how much upgrade you want that to be. But look, I understand this one's probably a big old question mark to a lot of people. Probably think I'm crazy. I'm gonna turn this off right then, be like, yeah, all right, we're done with this. But I give it an upset, man.
Yeah, I don't. I have to give it to the Saints. I have the Saints now, or I have the Chargers now at 2-3, and you have them at
4-1.
4-1. Wow.
This is a team that's going to get off to a hot start and slow way down in the second half.
I think we have the same win-loss record, so I'm interested to see who you think they lose against.
Well, this next week I can tell you it's also a W because the New York Jets have, I don't know, man, a lot of potential in a young quarterback, but man, this team just doesn't look like it's going to be winning a lot. And I think that the Chargers bring a big game. The Jets got to come across the country. I don't even think that's that big of an advantage, but who knows with Corona going on what this is all going to look like. But Adam Gase isn't better than Anthony Lynn, and Sam Darnold is going to struggle to get that ball to anybody.
Well, they're doing the second longest flight in the country from one team traveling to the next, so it is a factor. When
I see Seattle travel the most every year, and they still pull out these 9-7 to 12-win seasons, I don't know.
But Seattle is definitely not the Jets with Adam Gase.
No one is the Jets with Adam Gase. I'd sooner sign Matt Patricia.
Wow, we will get to that in the NFC North.
I will shred Adam Gase for the rest of my life. Give me Freddie Kitchens.
I actually have the Chargers winning the next 3 games: Week 6, Week 7, and Week 8, because they all have pretty simple games.
Jets aren't in Florida. I was like, the Florida teams.
Yeah, the Jets coming to LA. I just don't think that. I think it'll be a close game. I actually think the Jets maybe put up a good run in the second half, but because that's what they usually do is they usually get plowed in the first half, and then second half they can put up some points. But then the Chargers go to Miami. That's going to be a close one. I think that's going to be one of the games to look out for. I
definitely agree with you on that. It's going to be a closer game than I think some people want to think about. I think these teams are pretty similar in a lot of ways. I just think that Miami's talent's that defense not as lethal, but I think Miami's offense is definitely similar in terms of talent to that of the Chargers.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get so much shit for that comment right there.
I think it actually goes the same for the Jaguars. I think the Jaguars are a talented team.
Where? Point out the talent outside of Gardner.
Listen, mustache magic is real, and we will ride it until the end of time.
I love Gardner Minshew. The Jacksonville Jaguars have a real possibility of being 0-16.
I think the Jacksonville Jaguars will squeak out 2 or 3 wins, and this may be one of them. That's going to be my bold prediction. I think it may be one of them. I do have the Chargers winning this game. However, I do think that it is a possible upset for them.
This is a stomp. Chargers fans feel good this week because you just beat up a crippled kid.
And then we go into week
9, baby. The Chargers hot streak ends. The Raiders get a W. Josh Jacobs runs it all day long.
I agree. I think the Raiders do it, but I don't think it's because of Josh Jacobs. I think it's because finally they've come to their senses and replaced Derek Carr with Marcus Mariota at this point.
You shut your
And
face. Derek Carr is so criminally overlooked in the NFL. He was an MVP candidate 1 year. That talent disappeared. The talent around him disappeared.
I don't think so. I think he makes terrible decisions, and he should make backup money.
Either way, we both seem to agree that the Raiders are getting a win here.
I do think the Raiders are getting a win. I think Ruggs is probably going to be in full season form by then. Probably just getting to the system, like really getting a hold of the system.
John Ross 2.0.
He may be, but he's shorter, so you never know.
But then they get that nice cushiony bye week.
Then a nice cushiony bye week, week 10, yeah.
Perfect timing. What a great, like, just to every team that when you looked at your schedule and you saw a bye week 5, 6, I am so sorry.
Yeah. Week 10 bye week is perfect because you can go out there and you just trudge all the way through those tough couple games, and then all of a sudden you get a bye week and you get a rest, and then you get to go and just plow these teams. However, I don't think that's going to happen for the Chargers. I think they come out week 11 and lose handily to the Broncos in Mile High.
I'll tell you right now, do you define as nice and cushiony as the next 3 games are all losses?
I actually have them only losing the first 2 games after the bye week.
Oh, see, I have 3 in a row at Denver, at Buffalo, and then at home versus New England. I think Tyrod Taylor is not beating these elite defenses. And if you want to say, well, by now, guess who's in there? Justin Herbert? Justin Herbert's not beating elite defenses on his rookie season. So any way you slice this to me, 2 to 3, whatever you want to put it, it's 3 in a row. Come off bye week just to lose 3. It's the most Chargers thing there can be.
I will agree somewhat. I think they go to the Broncos and get stomped by that running attack. And then if Drew Lock has somehow found his season form, he has Jerry Jeudy. Cortland Sutton, I believe, is still on that team.
Deshaun Hamilton. I still believe in you, Deshaun.
He could be a factor, but I think the Broncos pull that one out. And then I think the next week, week 12, I think they go to Buffalo and absolutely get stomped because by this point it's in the single digits in Buffalo. It's really tough to play there, especially for a California team. I feel like, especially the travel as well. Going to upstate New York from Southern California is one of those long distances.
I'll say this: there are 2 things here. If you want to know what the best version of this kind of team looks like, it's the Buffalo Bills right now. But if any team we're going to give Buffalo the hardest time this season, that in terms of teams that we don't think so, it's going to be their former offensive coordinator, Anthony Lynn, and it's going to be their former starting quarterback, Tyrod Taylor. They both know how to play this. It's not a secret what Sean McDermott and the Bills are trying to do. I have it as an L, but I have it more on the fact that, again, I just don't think the Chargers offense is really breaking off a big play here. I don't trust Tyrod to do that. I trust Josh Allen at some point to just say, you know what, I'm going to throw this ball 80 yards down the field. The Stephon Diggs is down there somewhere. Catch it. And somebody trips in the snow or somebody trips, and Stephon does what Stephon does best, which is take it to the house.
Exactly. I totally agree about that. I just think that at some point they'll break to Buffalo. I think Buffalo's too sturdy. And they don't have a lot of problems in their foundation. They mainly have problems in their breakout stars.
The problem in the foundation is accuracy.
Breakout stars. But I think the next week, in week 13, I think the Chargers have New England coming to L.A., and I think New England takes the loss on this one. I think the Chargers pull one out. I think Tyrod Taylor gets maybe a little bit of revenge against those teams that would absolutely smash him. Normally, I think that Anthony Lynn will have something special for Bill Belichick because they don't meet often, and when they do, they turn out to be some pretty good games. And however, that has only been I've only seen that with Phillip Rivers, but I think if Tyrod is still in there, I think he'll have some wealth of knowledge of the offense by then. But if it's Justin Herbert, I think maybe a young quarterback in there could do.
Justin Herbert.
I just don't think New England's going to be that. I truly think New England's going to be about an 8-18 this year. I don't.
See, I have more faith in them than that. But Look,
I
you
don't see
didn't get
New
it
England
done with
making it to the
Rivers. You
playoffs.
didn't get it done with Breeze. Tyrod Taylor ain't getting it done here in New England. Bill Belichick just knows how to beat the Bolts.
But it's in LA, and
There'll be
I'll,
more. I bet you right now there will be more Pats fans than there will Chargers fans, if there's even fans.
I will say personally, that the Chargers can have that. You just don't know what it is. In a week 13, you just don't expect them to put on a show like they do. And then they just go out and ball out for no good reason. And I think that's what's going to happen here. I think they're going to treat this as their Super Bowl or one of their Super Bowls. Because like them and Kansas City are going to be, and maybe the Saints as well, the toughest teams that they play all year. And
For sure.
really showing out against those teams could, further Lynn's contract, could further Tyrod's contract. So I think it's a big game.
Yeah. But rejoice, Chargers fans, because you turned those 3 L's into 3 W's.
I totally agree.
3 weeks against the Falcons. Like I said, Falcons defense just isn't going to stop anything. Then you at Raiders, you get them this time, and you're at home versus Denver. You pull the rug out from underneath them. You get a nice cushiony. You're at 10-5. You're making the playoffs probably here. The new 7 seed, you should be locked in. I don't, the Raiders and Chargers game, whichever one you want to give, whichever team, I think they split it here. Denver's the same way. Unless Drew Lock turns out to be this next great, Matt Stafford, Matt Ryan quarterback, which is where I honestly think he can be at his best. I don't see the Broncos getting 2 wins against this team. Chris Harris is going to play like a monster in both these games. You just know it. He's like, you know what? I was at Denver forever. They moved me outside of my comfort spot. But yeah, I mean, and we both agree on that. Then here's a fat set of 3 L's to push into that playoff race.
Yeah, well, I think that I think they lose to Kansas City in Week 17 and come out 9-7.
See, so you're at 9-7. I'm at 10-6. That Saints game is the difference here.
Yeah.
Although if you wanted to tell me they lost to the Saints and they swept the Raiders, I wouldn't be totally shocked by that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of toss-up games for the Chargers this year. I think they have some good teams and some terrible teams that they play, and that if they can make sure that they beat all the terrible teams and maybe have some close ones with the good teams, then they can pull off maybe playoff berth. But they would have to beat Kansas City at least once. That's my prediction.
Yeah.
In order for them.
This is Buffalo. This is a similar team to what Buffalo does. This is a similar team to what, a lot of these make it to the first round. Are they going to make it to the second round of the playoffs? Teams do. This is a team that, they could not make the playoffs, and we wouldn't be surprised they could make the playoffs, and we're not going to be surprised. Do I think they're going to go anywhere deep in the playoffs? No, but this is a team that if you think that you're walking out with a W, they can hand you an L, and if you're prepared, you probably could beat them. It's just a matter of what Chargers team shows up, what Tyrod Taylor shows up. But I mean, I think that this team was handicapped last year by a lot of poor playmaking by their quarterback. I mean, that happens when you've been playing for 12, 13, 14 years.
Exactly. I think
if they stay healthy, 10-6 is probably. If you really want to get ballsy, 11-5 would be their absolute peak. But I could see this team finishing 6-10, 7-9 if injuries hit or if things just don't work out. If you want to believe that Tyrod is truly at his worst, then this team's probably not winning more than 4 games. But I have faith in the system. I have faith that this team knows what it's doing. And I definitely think that last year was a bad season for them. I think they rebound, get a nice little win season for the Chargers, and they steal SoFi Stadium opening season from the Rams.
Yeah, you really think so?
The Rams are in such a bad spot. The Chargers look nice. They're sharing this stadium. It is gonna piss off the Rams owners so bad, but it'll be hilarious to watch. And this team gets to stay in America, because if I hear one more thing about them moving to England, I know it's been a while since I got talked about, but that's infuriating to me. London doesn't need a team. The Chargers have been a long-standing team. If you want to send a team out there, send Jacksonville. Send somebody from the East Coast. Leave the Chargers on the West where they belong. There's only like 5 teams on the West Coast. We need them out here.
Yeah, don't take away teams that actually have a fan base. Okay.
Yeah.
You take those Jacksonville Jaguars. or you take the Miami Dolphins, where you
Oh,
couldn't
you
find.
can't. You gotta leave the Dolphins. That's like a historic team. They won 14-0. They had Dan Marino. They had, that's sexy in Miami, whose number one industry is fraud.
I don't know,
Which
man.
is ironically what the Dolphins do to their fans every year.
They're frauds to them.
Yeah, they commit fraud. All right, let's move it over to the very interesting Denver Broncos.
I would agree. They're very interesting this year.
This year's Cleveland Browns. No one cares about Cleveland anymore. They didn't make the sexy acquisitions this year, even though I think Cleveland is going to have a great year. But Denver, everyone's like, Drew Lock can do it. They got Jerry Jeudy. They drafted KJ Hamler. Deshaun Hamilton is an interesting receiver on the field. I still have a lot of faith in him as a receiver. Cortland Sutton looked good. Noah Fant showed flashes. They bring in Melvin Gordon, who I don't even know how to feel. Phillip Lindsay's there. Royce Freeman. They got this defense, though. Defense got worse, though. Defense got worse. They lost.
Somehow they got worse.
It lost Christian. Granted, they're getting Bradley Chubb, so their pass rush is going to be great. The secondary is worse. I shouldn't say the defense, because Von Miller is still very much an elite pass rusher. He's still a great defender on the field. He's one of my favorite players.
He's a good defender. I don't think he's elite anymore. I don't think
you could argue that he's not maybe elite anymore. But it's all about the offense. And the biggest it's literally them in Arizona. Same question. Drew Lock, Kyler Murray. Are they going to make that next step? That's it. That there is for Drew Lock and Kyler Murray, there is almost zero excuses to not succeed. But
I think Drew Lock has one more season to do that, because Kyler had his last season.
If Drew Lock came out, I mean, they were same draft class, weren't they?
Yeah, but Drew Lock sat.
Yeah, but Drew Lock came out in the last second half. I mean, people are talking about Drew Lock like he's gonna, ascend to the heavens this season. And
they're also talking about Jared Stidham doing that as well. Like somehow Jared Stidham will be.
I have a lot of faith in Jared Stidham.
New
England doesn't just get quarterbacks for nothing, but that's a whole notch how much you trust that. Look, I like Denver a lot. If it all hits, they could easily be like a 12-win team. I don't think that's going to hit. I think Drew Lock's going to look like your Matt Stafford, your Matt Ryan, where some games you're like, damn, that's awesome. Other games you're like, what are you doing with that football? There's a lot of talent here. Look, I love Jerry Jeudy. I think Jerry Jeudy should have been the first receiver off the board. We will see when it comes to the NFL. There have been a lot of players that were like, this is the guy. This is it. In the NFL, he's going to kill. Doesn't do it. So I struggle with that. I think Vic Fangio is a questionable head coach at times. I don't think he understands the nuances of an offense as well. But let's get into it. Let's get into Denver, who does not have a fun start to their season. Like, I will say,
right, just as a comment to you, I think Jerry Jeudy, I think you're right. I think he should have went higher. And I think that Jerry Jeudy will have – he did get drafted 15th, so he's not as disrespected. But I do think that he will have the respect that DK Metcalf had coming into Seattle, where there was that question mark. I know that DK had that injury, and that's why he fell so hard. But I do think it's the same thought process going into it, that it could be an elite receiver if they get him the ball. So
yeah, there is a ton of mouths to feed. If you're playing fantasy, this is a team that you may want to just stay away from or draft Drew Lock. Don't buy the slice, buy the cake. But let's get here. Week 1, they're playing the Tennessee Titans. These first 3 weeks, just pass rush bonanza.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking. I think Broncos first game out of the season, even though it's at Mile High against the Titans don't throw the ball. They run the ball, and they don't care. Like they have better cardio at that point. So I think what will happen is the Titans just absolutely destroy them, because I don't think the Broncos will be ready as a unit. I don't think they'll be ready.
I think destroy is a strong word. I think that Tennessee had some major losses this offseason. We'll get into that with their thing. Denver, I just don't think has the click yet. I think they're going to be off to a bit of a slow start here. And I think the Titans get it done. I think Mike Vrabel is a better coach than Vic Fangio. And at the end of the day, what comes down to some of these teams, like as much as I love the Titans and how they've constructed their team, they're not an exciting offense, Ryan Tannehill stuff, but they have a little more click, and I think they just kind of get a nice ugly dub here. I would say it's a close game, not a destroyed.
Yeah. I can see it. I just truly think that they're going to get run over. I truly do. I just have that feeling, and I think it's going to be the same exact thing when they go to Steelers in week 2.
I will give you, depending on which Big Ben we see, this game is either going to be a close one or Denver is going to get sent to the shadow realm. This Pittsburgh team is so lethal on defense.
Yeah.
You're looking at what could easily be the #1 defense in the NFL. This thing is lethal. If Big Ben comes back in even a remotely decent shape, I mean, Mason Rudolph showed that he was just awful. If Big Ben comes back and plays remotely well, you're looking at a team that can still run the ball. Anthony McFarland's a promising guy. James Conner, if you can relieve some of that, can probably play more games. Juju out of the slot will be interesting. Deontay Johnson's a nice deep threat. James Washington looked good at times. Like, Pittsburgh looks good, baby. And ain't no reason to get, complicated here. Denver's still figuring it out. Pittsburgh ain't. Pittsburgh walking away with a W.
I totally agree with your sentiment about Pittsburgh's defense. Pittsburgh's defense was ranked 5th last year. 5th overall in defensive stats. And that is mind-boggling when it came to their offensive production. Their offensive production last year was so painful to watch. It was fun seeing I'm forgetting the guy's name that did the duck calls.
Yeah, they're the backup quarterback for the
their third stringer that did the duck calls. He's a national duck call champion. They couldn't get him. They couldn't call a dub to save his life. I think you're right in the assessment that it's all about which Big Ben shows up. I think that the Steelers defense will handle Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay, and I think that was that Minkah Fitzpatrick's there now.
Oh, phenomenal!
Minkah Fitzpatrick is just a phenomenal cornerback, and he can really cover the entire field, which you need him to be against the Broncos slot receivers.
Yeah, these rookie receivers aren't going to be able to break off some of these corners. Cortland Sutton, no good, but I mean, this is just an example of an interesting team versus a team we know what they're about. And Pittsburgh might not be exciting anymore, but Mike Tomlin wins games. When you go 8-8 with that offense, things are looking good. So
it was impressive.
Look, if Big Ben shows up and is washed out, can't play anymore, Pittsburgh's struggling to win these games. But I'm gonna bank that Big Ben comes back and looks not 5,000 yards, but he looks better than last year's group.
I agree. I think he'll throw for about 4,000, and about 400 of it will be against the Broncos. I think moving on to week 3, though, I think the Broncos have a tougher test that I would say is a toss-up. Is a toss-up, only for the fact that it's in Mile High, week 3. So maybe Drew Lock has caught his stride, and so is the rest of the offense. And then maybe the defense has started to shore up a little bit with the Steelers and the Titans. I think this could be a win for the Broncos, but as of right now, I just don't see any. I don't see any player on that team, or any players on that team really handling Tom Brady in that offense.
Yeah. So kids at home, this is against Tampa Bay. And by the way, what is Tom Brady's record in Mile High? Oh, it's negative. That's right, because it's a hard arena. Denver's gonna come out and whoop some Florida ass. Ain't nothing but a thing here. Denver's walking out with a W. They get rolling on track here for their first W of the season.
Really? All right. I have them losing, but I think it's a toss-up. I think it'll be close.
I will die on this hill that I do not have faith in Tom Brady at 43 going to Tampa Bay. Not a slight on his career, not a slight on the fact that Tampa's a lot of talent. It's just it has to. I'm spoiling my thing for Tampa, but just this team's getting way too hype trainy. But Denver gets it on this one. Too much offensive weaponry. Defense not going to stop it. Mile High. It's easy. It ain't nothing but a thing.
Yeah, I kind of view Tampa Bay as the Boston Celtics of the 07-08 season.
Ha! Ha!
They're putting together one last ride.
Ha! All right, week 4, it's easy because it's the Jets.
It's the Jets. What can we say?
I'm so sorry,
Jets
fans.
2-14.
Look, I'll let you on something. My whole life, I've actually really liked the Jets. I'll
That
tell you now, I don't like the Giants for very big, obvious reasons because I'm a Cowboys fan. So I always liked the Jets. I
we
liked the
lost
green.
half of our listeners.
No, we gained half because half the Cowboys fans just tuned in. Look, getting to the boys later, how I feel about them. I love them and hate them. But look, I've always liked the Jets. I grew up, they were hit or miss. But I remember the years when they were great with Mark Sanchez. But this is not your time, and I am so sorry. You have a promising quarterback, but we'll get into that in the AFC East episode.
Yeah.
It ain't a win here. It's a W for Denver.
I agree. And then moving to week 5, I think the Broncos have a close one, but I think they lose against Cam in New England.
I agree with you. Whether it's Stidham or Cam, it doesn't really matter. I actually did this all with Stidham as the quarterback.
Really?
I'll be honest. Yeah, I'm a Stidham believer. I don't think Stidham is, the next Tom Brady, but I think Stidham is a competent quarterback, and that team has never needed an electric offense. It needs a competent one.
You think he'll win? You think he'll win the quarterback battle this offseason?
No idea. I think that this is a really weird season because there's no OTAs and stuff, but they signed Cam to a 1-year deal. My assumption is that they probably want to sit and groom maybe Stidham a little bit more or encourage him. I don't know. I don't really care. I think that either which way, this team's has similar wins and losses because I think with Cam you're going to get these great wins but these terrible losses.
Yeah.
But either way, Denver's not going to win this one. It's a rough start to the season. They go to New England. I think Bill Belichick just knows how to handle a rookie quarterback. Or no, I guess he's not rookie, second year. I think that if you are a rookie, the best place you can be is the NFC because you don't have to deal with Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
He will find your tendencies and he'll make your life a living hell.
I think you're right. I think they get the loss from New England, but I think the next week they get a little bit of a cushion. They got Miami coming to Mile High, and I think Miami just tanks. I think the Broncos will run all over them. Miami does not have a great defense.
I mean, I'm with you. I think that, because we covered it with the Chiefs, I think the next 2 weeks for Denver are wins. They're both at home. I don't think Miami's going to come up there and beat out Denver. Byron Jones, I can tell you, he's a good corner, but they do have a good duo, but I still think that you can then toss it to Phillip Lindsay, Noah Fant, Melvin Gordon, Deshaun Hamilton, KJ Hamler. Name any of these 1,000 pieces they have, and they eke out a next 2 wins. For me, I know that when we covered KC, you had it a L here. So at their bye week, I have them at 4-3, and you have them at
the bye week at 3-4.
Yeah, so we have them inversed of one another.
Yeah, I think Broncos will squeak out a win against Kansas City right before their bye week in week 8.
Good news, you're gonna get a W.
I think that's a good time for them to get their bye week because they just been getting manhandled for the first.
It's a tough first half. It's a tough first half. You play 3 good defenses. You play Tampa Bay, who has a great defensive line and a lot of talent. Miami's not an easy team to beat, although I don't think they're going to win a ton of games. They're going to give you a good fight.
Yeah.
So it's a much liked bye week. And they get to come here and get, I think, what'll be a pretty good manhandly W against the Falcons in week 8 or week 9. Yeah. I don't think that the Falcons offense is going to be great as it is every year. That defense isn't going to stop it. And if you're a rookie or not a rookie, I don't know why I keep calling him a rookie, but it's some great time to give some fantasy stats. So daily fantasy, hit the Broncos up. Jerry Jeudy probably grab one. Cortland Sutton. I mean, it'll be a good win for Denver.
I think Matt Ryan. I have never been a Matt Ryan fan.
It's the better Matthew Stafford.
That's it. I think that's it. I've never been a Matt Stafford fan, but I have been a fan of both of their toughness. Those guys are gritty and tough, and all they want to do is win, but they just find a way not to. And I think that's what happens in this game. I think that that Matt Ryan will just find a way to tank this one. I think he has had probably one of the best receiving corps ever developed underneath him, and he has done nothing with them except go to a Super Bowl and then lose in the second most embarrassing fashion of all time.
I know what first is. I mean, it'll be curious to see what the Falcons are. Week 10 at Las Vegas, that was the hardest thing I've ever had to say in my life because I want to call them Oakland at every step. Yeah. Denver does not get an L here. I mean, no. Denver does not get a W here. They get an L.
Really? I have them winning.
Derek Carr and the Raiders pull out a W here. It's not a beautiful one, but it's a win, and
Yeah.
I just think that Denver splits here with both LA and the Raiders. I think the Raiders are going to be a team that people don't think about this year, and they'll catch you off guard. And I think that I just think that the Raiders are going to pull one out here.
I actually think the Broncos are going to do the exact same, but just inverse. I think that the Broncos will barely edge one out here in Las Vegas. I do think that that it'll be a tough game. I think going
we finally
into the
caught up to each other, 5-4.
Right. I think, but I think that them going against the Broncos or them going against the Chargers the next week, I think that's going to be another interesting game. But I have them winning, so I have them going 3-0 out off of the bye week. I think it really helps them really refocus their offense and stuff. I think that they can take on the Chargers and beat them, and really show them like I think that I have them taking both games against the Chargers. Yeah, I do have them taking both games against the Chargers just because I don't think that the Chargers match up well with the Broncos.
Yeah, I have them splitting, and we covered that a bit in the Chargers show. But then Denver, poor Denver, you guys get to go play the Saints. Well, no, actually, the Saints come play you.
Saints come play you, which I think
doesn't matter. Saints are going to get that W. I think that this whole season can be summed up in a way that it's Drew Lock spinning the wheel to who he likes on the offense and figuring out who he likes. And I think that if you ask me in 2 or 3 seasons, if Drew Lock is a good quarterback, what does Denver look like? I say Denver's a playoff team. They have a lot of talent. There's so much on this team right now. You got to build the connections with the good ones. You got to figure out who you like. And I think that's what a lot of this season is. And I feel like games like the Chargers, where the Chargers seem to they know what they're doing. It's going to be harder because Denver's going to be trying to figure out what they are totally. What is Vic Fangio as a head coach? Is it defense run the ball? Is it Drew Lock kind of does his own thing on? Is it what the Patriots did for a long time, which was TB and Josh McDaniels kind of came with their own offense? They talked to Belichick, said, Belichick, this is what we're going to kind of do here. Belichick said, well, we want to do this on defense and work it out. Or, it's every team's flavor. So
I find it interesting that you have the Saints coming into Mile High and absolutely and winning against the Broncos, and then them losing against the Chargers in Week 5 in New Orleans. I found that odd because I actually think that the Broncos are a better team than the Chargers.
See, this is where we disagree.
I think the Broncos are about 3 to 4 pieces of adding a good to great person in that position that they could be a 12-4, 13-3 team. I truly think so.
It's only about chemistry. It's about chemistry at the end of the day, and I just don't think that Denver has a ton of it right now. And so I think
I think that's because of Vic Fangio. I think that's because of Vic Fangio. I think Vic Fangio did a mediocre at best job in Chicago, and then gets this, gets a job.
He got that defense rolling so hot. They went 12-4 that year.
But
Vic Fangio is one of the best defensive coordinators in this league as a head coach. I'll take you mediocre as a head coach.
I will say I will give you that he's a good defensive coordinator, but I think as a head coach he's one of the most lacking in the NFL. I think he's like a Matt Patricia where he has a lot of... We'll find out
this season. This is the year for both him and Drew Lock. It's the same thing. Can you win with all this talent? What's the excuse if you're not winning?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yes, I would agree with that. I do think that the Saints will win this one. So I think the Broncos are getting the loss. And I think they're getting...
Insane take. Saints are a good team. They're going to beat Broncos. But then we get to week 13 when Denver also plays another good team.
And I think Denver loses again at Kansas City.
We agree.
I think Kansas City and the Broncos. I think I have them. I think Kansas City winning both.
I have them splitting it. I have Kansas City splitting with them and the Chargers.
Oh no, I have the.
No, you have them splitting them. Yeah,
I'm splitting them with Kansas City. I think the Broncos are the hardest test for Kansas City in this division. I truly think so. I think
it just depends what we see out of Drew Lock. That's the hardest part of this team is that it depends what you get out of Drew Lock.
but I think it's also the same for what we get out of Tyrod Taylor or Justin Herbert. I
still think that
you can say
I
that
know
for
what
each
I'm getting
quarterback,
out of
but I think
Tyrod
that Drew
Taylor.
Lock is in a better position than Justin Herbert is, and is in a better position than Derek Carr is, because Derek Carr doesn't they may have added some offensive weapons, but Josh Jacobs and Ruggs aren't going to get you there. I think Darren Waller is another great thing for the Raiders, but I just don't think that they're able to stack up to KC like the Broncos are with that good defense. I don't think Chargers defense or the Raiders defense can stack up like the Broncos can.
Denver just reminds me of what we all heard out of Cleveland last offseason. They made a bunch of flashy moves, but what wins you games is making good moves, not flashy moves always. So we'll see what happens with it all. We got 4 games left on these bad boys. So I have them winning at Carolina. I don't think it's a huge fight. And then I have them winning against Buffalo at home. I think that Josh Allen makes some dumb throws in Mile High. I think it's a harder place to go. It's a tough game. It's
That's actually one of my games to watch.
One.
I think that's a game that really determines Buffalo's playoff future. Just looking at Buffalo's schedule, I think it's one of the ones that they need to irk out to really set themselves apart in the AFC. And I think that Buffalo actually wins against the Broncos in Mile High. I think they come in knowing the price that they need to pay and just get it done.
Yeah. Okay. Then they play the Chargers. You have them winning here. I have them losing. I think we've beaten that horse to death here about how we feel about it with those 2 teams. So then we move to Week 17 against the Raiders. I have them winning here to finish out 9-7, and I think that you're also here with that, correct?
Yeah, I have them winning against the Raiders to finish out 9-7, and I think Denver is actually the only team that's in this division that can truly compete for a wild card position. I don't think any other team, including the Chargers and the Raiders, I don't think any other team in that group of 3 has a chance to really go forward as a wild card besides Denver.
We firmly disagree on the base on which the Chargers are built then. But that's all right, because that's what this is all about, and we will find out if there's a season. Please, God, let there be a season.
Please, God.
What'll happen? All right, so moving on to the Oakland record scratch Las Vegas Raiders. God, that's going to take some getting used to.
Yeah.
Side note, this is a personal opinion. If the Raiders do well in Vegas, I think that the NBA is going to try and put expansion teams in Seattle and Vegas because it makes sense to get 2 more teams out here on the West Coast. You're probably going to add 2 teams. So and if this is all dependent. If the Raiders do good in Vegas and the NHL team does good in Seattle, I think you can expect 2 new basketball teams in Vegas and in Seattle. So those of us who live in the Pacific Northwest, let's get those Supersonics back. Please, God.
I think on that side note, I think that if Oakland got a team, it would be in the East, just to even them out.
Yeah, but they just lost the Warriors. So poor Oakland fans. I feel bad for you because the Athletics suck.
Yeah.
So moving on here.
Moving on to the Las Vegas Raiders portion of the show.
I have them starting the season off with a nice, juicy W.
I have them starting off with a nice, juicy loss at the Panthers. I think Teddy Bridgewater is going to be more prepared than Derek Carr is, especially in Carolina. I think that Carolina...
You're telling me that Teddy Bridgewater, who's not played a snap for that team, is going to come in and be more prepared than Derek Carr, who's only played for this franchise, and this is year, 3 or 4 with Gruden?
I think Derek Carr throws more picks than anybody would like to admit. I think Derek Carr makes more terrible decisions than anybody would like to admit.
Whoa, there's a man in Chicago.
Oh, wow. Let's wait until we get to the NFC North for that one, because that man, wow. All right.
Mitchell Trubisky sucks.
He will not have a job by week 3. That's my call.
He's not having a job by week 1. Nick Foles is the starter now. You cannot convince me otherwise. Either which way, the Raiders eke out a nice 23-20 win here. Josh Jacobs has a good game. Derek Carr throws a Henry Ruggs touchdown or some shit like that. Darren Waller's nice.
I don't think the Raiders have any answer to CMC though. I think he's just gonna absolutely destroy them, because that's all. If you truly think that's all the Panthers will have the first week is CMC and some okay play by the wide receivers. But I think that CMC will be their offense, and I don't think the Raiders have a system to shut down CMC. I don't.
I agree, but CMC can only do so much there. I don't
Yeah.
know. I like Derek Carr a lot. I'm a Derek Carr believer. I don't think he's Patrick Mahomes, but he's not bad. All
Me
right,
too.
so they're
Me too.
they're not getting a W over the New Orleans Saints.
It's in Las Vegas though.
Oh, that's great. That doesn't matter. The Saints are a much better team. Drew Brees
Yeah.
is hot. No one is gonna be. They don't have a corner, in my opinion, to stop
Michael Thomas
Michael
or Alvin
Thomas,
Kamara
Emmanuel
or
Sanders. Whatever you want to take. It's a good defense. I think it'll be better, but you're not. This is just a simple. You're not beating the Saints.
agreed. And I think it's the same that goes for week 3. I don't think the Raiders get a win at New England. I don't think so. I think Cam will be the quarterback. I know you mapped it all off of Derek Stidham.
I don't know either which way, but we agree on it. It's an L. They're not going and beating. John Gruden's not better than Bill Belichick in his wildest dreams. So
No, Bill Belichick could have Jared Stidham and a terrible offense and still work out a win in that, just because he will make sure that defense is in line. So I think the Raiders having a 0-3 start to their season is not out of the question. I think them moving on to week 4 though, I think that's where they get their first win at home against Buffalo.
Nah, Buffalo's coming in here. It's same reason New England's winning. It's just a better team. I love the Raiders' trajectory. I think that they're a nice up and up team. I think this division in 2 or 3 years might be the best division in football. But when you look at it right now, the Buffalo's complete. They know what they're doing. And I just don't see a world where, Josh Allen might be inaccurate, but Josh Allen can still fling it out to John Brown, Cole Beasley, and Stephon Diggs. And I don't see anybody on this team who's going to stop it. You can stop 1 or 2 of them, but I think that Buffalo just kind of manhandles the Raiders, and it's not fun to be a Raiders fan week 4.
I think that it will. I think the new stadium moving to Las Vegas is actually going to have a bigger impact than people give it. And I think it'll definitely have an impact on Buffalo. I think coming from the Northeast and coming down to a very, very hot Southwest, they've never had the best record while traveling to like Southern California and stuff like that. So I don't think that they'll have an advantage. Or that advantage will go towards the Raiders, and that the Raiders will somehow work out a win. I just feel that Josh Allen will do what you said, ball out, but I think he'll make some terrible throws, and I think
you can pencil his ass in for some real questionable throws. Look, I love Josh Allen. Josh Allen is probably the 3rd best quarterback out of that class, and we'll cover him extensively when we talk about Buffalo. I love him.
I think
he's lucky it's the Raiders. Oh God, no, I won't even tolerate. Anyone listening to this will not be subject to your awful opinion that Josh Allen is anywhere near Trubisky. I will not allow it. I will defend him.
They're the same type of quarterback. I'm
good
telling you right now.
Yeah, and Russell Wilson and Trubisky are the same one. They're called mobile. The difference is one's good. It's Trubisky. All right, let's get to week 5. The Raiders aren't beating Kansas City.
No.
I'm sorry. They'll give it a fun game. It'll probably be like 28-3 in like the halftime. Then Kansas City wins like 50-28. I don't know, something dumb and fun, but
I think you're totally correct. And then I think they get an absolutely terrible bye week at week 6.
With Corona, if there is a season, and I think there will be, but it'll be rough. This is a terrible place to be. You know what? Actually, I'll say this is the one season where this might actually be an advantage, because with people not knowing what's going on, if you have to play lengthy and you're losing players in that opening one, it might not be well. So the Raiders may have an advantage here at week 6 bye week to recover and say, okay, everyone else is kind of is having these struggles. We get to plan ahead of this and move forward. But it's not a good week considering that, there's just a lot to ask for this team. It doesn't matter because they come out of the gate and they lose, 2 games in a row? I think I have them losing. Yeah.
I have them losing 2 games in a row as well. Week 7, Tampa Bay's coming to LA, but I think Tampa Bay gets that win. I think Tampa Bay's just too good for the Raiders.
Yeah, they're coming to the LA Raiders?
Yeah, the Raiders.
Yeah, back in the 80s. No, yeah, I'm with you. Tampa Bay pass rush is too good. Tom Brady's not an idiot. He's still going to be smart with the ball, and this defense isn't good enough to stop it. And then one of my favorite teams for this season, the Browns, they get
You
back
said
on
that last
track.
year.
I did, but I also said that Freddie Kitchens might be an idiot and that team would have chemistry problems going on. This season looks a little bit different. I am still questioned. I'll get into this quick take here. Why you hired a first-year coach, it didn't work, and then you said, you know what, let's do it again. Like, Kevin Stefanski might suck, but I'm excited for this team. I like where it's going. I think Baker had problems last year, but I think that some of them weren't all his fault. I think he talked a lot of trash, so people got excited. But good news, the Browns are going to beat the Raiders here. I'd feel confident enough to put some money down on it. It's going to be a nice, juicy, boring game to watch. Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs running all over the place. It's a nice, fun win in Vegas for no, it's in Cleveland, so it's an ugly win for Cleveland because Cleveland's an ugly city.
I think you're right. I think I am okay. I will say this with hope. I hope that in the sense, just like Tyron, was it Tyron Lue, or what's his name?
Ty Lue.
I hope in the same sense that Ty Lue was the perfect. He wasn't the perfect coach for Cleveland. He was the perfect mediator and
yeah, because they had LeBron
organizer.
James.
And I don't think in any form that that Baker Mayfield or anybody on that Cleveland franchise is LeBron James. But I do think it's a good squad that has very good pieces. And I don't think that the Raiders have enough to combat all of those pieces. If Baker is firing at all cylinders by week 8, I think the league's in for one. I truly think that Baker Mayfield will have a season like Brett Favre did in his true first season in Green Bay.
I'm excited for the Browns.
He did.
I mean,
yeah.
Look, the Raiders are stuck with the Dolphins. They're a team. Oh.
I'm happy that he kept those wide receivers through all this stuff that's going on. The fact that he kept OBJ, kept Jarvis Landry, and then he may be losing Njoku, but I really don't see that as a loss. I really don't.
No. Yeah, we can cover that with the Browns, but I mean we get into it. The Raiders and the Dolphins are the same team to me. They'll give you trouble, but at the end of the day, if you know what you're doing, you're gonna get a win here. Week 9, Chargers. It's a W for the Raiders. They get the second win of the season. They just pull one out over the Chargers. The Chargers do a classic Chargers move, which is you probably missed the field goal to win the game. But yeah, and then we covered some of this within the division against. Then they play the Broncos and the Chiefs. I have them beating the Broncos, losing to the Chiefs. Of course, later on they lose Week 17 to the Broncos there, but I think they split with the Broncos and the Chargers. Chiefs sweep them. Here I have it. But then we get out of division. 3 weeks in the division. That's great actually because they can disrupt some of these teams' playoff. All 3 of these other teams have chance at the playoffs, and the Raiders can be the gatekeeper to their nightmare if the Raiders decide to play up.
Week 9 through 10 for the Raiders is very, very important. Maybe not for them, but definitely for their people in their division.
Hey, man, watch out. I've seen better teams slip up. I mean, look at what's happened. I'm trying to think. Look at Miami, 2 years ago when they stole that win from New England and just New England was like, what do we do now? But we move out.
Really just like it can either start to tear at those seams of a really good team, and then they may start to fall apart a little bit, or it'll just strengthen those teams, and the Chargers, Broncos, and Chiefs will just destroy the Raiders, which I think the Broncos and the Chiefs will do. I don't think the Chargers will do it. I think Chargers and the Raiders split this season, but I think the Broncos and Kansas City in Week 10 and Week 11 are just too much.
Well,
even in Las Vegas.
So, I mean, I feel like we've covered our feelings on both the Falcons and the Jets. I have the Raiders winning both of those games back to back.
I do too.
And then they play.
Games, I think that's pretty good momentum.
I feel bad because the Raiders play a lot of paired away games. Granted, they go to LA and Cleveland, which I guess from Vegas probably. I don't know what Vegas to Cleveland is, but Vegas to LA is what, a 2-hour flight at most. But then they play a very interesting team. I'm really curious to see how this goes. They play the Colts. I have them getting an L here. I think that the Colts are a quarterback away from being a really dominant franchise, maybe a wide receiver too. I really like what they've done. I think it's a great led team, and I think this is an example of when a good team that has some potential but isn't quite there plays a good team that has their foundations locked down, built already. Darius Leonard should have been Defensive Player of the Year last year. I'll make an argument later for it, but like the Colts have a good team. They're gonna run the ball with Jonathan Taylor, Marlon Mack, Phillip Rivers just has to not throw interceptions. So pray to God that happens. But it's a good win for the Colts. It's an ugly game, but it's a good win for the Colts.
I actually think I have a bold prediction here that I have week 12 through 17. I have the Las Vegas Raiders winning out, and that includes at the Falcons, at the Jets, and then Colts in Las Vegas. I feel like that'll be a disadvantage. I don't think it'll be a disadvantage for Phillip Rivers per se, but I do think that the Colts just don't perform. I feel like they won't perform well, only for the fact that the Raiders can be disruptive, and if the Colts aren't hitting a total mid-season stride at this point, then they can falter to the Raiders, just like plunging little daggers in them. I think it can happen.
Yeah, I do agree. I think that this could be a Raiders win, depending on what the Colts look like. And I think that's the biggest problem with a lot of like the Raiders is like, what do the Falcons look like? What does Denver look like? What does the Browns look like? Like this could be a team that wins, 8 or 9 games if some of these teams aren't as good as we thought. But could easily be a 4 or 5 win team if some of these teams are better than we thought. And I think that, that's where I feel like Chargers and the Colts and Denver with them. So then we move to the next week is against LA. I have this a loss winning for the Raiders. Yeah.
I have them winning. I think the Raiders win out. Actually, I don't think maybe week 17 will be their only loss against the Broncos, but I think they win out. And they get to
I have them losing there, and you have them winning. This game against Miami, the same team, but I think they win. I think that they're a little bit more well constructed. I think they have a little more chemistry, and I think they finish out the season 6-10.
Okay.
So you're looking better. I just don't think they have enough offensive firepower, and I think that they need 1 or 2 big playmakers. Like if they had like a really good linebacker, like just a really dominant pass rush linebacker that could disrupt a play, like if only like a Khalil Mack almost.
Ooh, wouldn't
Not
that
just kidding.
Dream? Khalil Mack, maybe a Bruce Irvin in his prime, or
I'll circle back to this. That trade worked for everybody because the Raiders have turned that into a lot of like maybe not to the same talent, but they've turned into a lot of talent that they wouldn't have otherwise. I love Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack's great for Chicago, but that team freed up cap space and got a lot more talent in. Look, here at the end of the day, this team, what would it be with Khalil Mack? It'd still be 6-10, 7-9. Like, I don't really think it'd be much different than this. And I think that they have a sturdier foundation. You look at teams like Buffalo, and you look at teams like LA, and I had another team that I'm blanking on. Oh, Tennessee. Like, their all-stars aren't there, really. Like, they have great players all across the board, and they win games because of it. You don't win games by having 2 superstars and trash. Look at the Cowboys' defense. For years, it's been, all right, we have these 3 superstars, DeMarcus Ware, we have not Trevor Lawrence. I'm blanking on our defensive end, but Crawford and Van Der Esch and Lee. But then there's all this garbage with it, and you never get anything done. You look at what the Raiders
you never had a solid pair of cornerbacks either.
Yeah, but I look at Raiders and I say, if Khalil Mack's there, and they signed Corey Littleton, who huge loss for the Rams, huge game for the Raiders.
Absolutely.
Honest to God, in 2 years, this division will have multiple teams fighting for playoffs. Like, there's a good chance, and good chance is a strong word. There is a chance that in like 3 years, all 4 of these teams could be making the playoffs with the new 7 seed. I could see a world where all 3 of these teams, 3 of them are wild cards. I could see that world. I don't think it'll happen because I think the Chargers will drop off in like 2 seasons. I think that they're really at a win now unless Herbert really works, in which case they can be good. Denver, if Drew Lock doesn't work out, congratulations, you're where you've been since Peyton Manning. Like you're just in this enigma of like 6 to 9 wins. And the Raiders, I actually do believe that the Raiders are moving to greener pastures. It just sucks that it's not in. They're going to Vegas. That it's sad. I love them in Oakland. It's a historic franchise that I'm sad is moving. But so recap, let's cover this. I have the Chiefs at 12-4. You have them at 13-3. Our biggest disagreement is the Chargers. You have them at 9. Our biggest disagreement 9-7. I have them at 10-6. I have Denver at 9-7, like you, and then I have the Raiders at 6-10. You have them at 8-8. I guess that's actually our biggest discrepancy.
Yeah, I just think that the Raiders have that knack to pull off some sort of weird victories that they can get to 8-8. But I truly think that 8-8 is their ceiling this year. They have a tough schedule. Besides their division, their division is already pretty tough for them. Matchup wise, and then you just add those other teams like Tampa Bay, New England, the Saints, and the Browns. I think it's too much. All right, well, that will conclude it for this episode of the Pooch Cake Podcast. Again, we just want to say thank you for tuning in and listen to us ramble on about NFL teams that may not even be whole by the time the season starts. But I just want to say thank you on behalf of both of us. I'm Carl.
I'm Sam.
And we will see you next week. Have a good one, guys.